Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is a shameless plugs edition featuring guitar virtuoso Fernando Perdomo. Welcome back to the show, Fernando.
Hey, it's always great to be on your show, Tom. Thank you for all the support.
That's what we like to do. So, before we hit record, I was saying, I don't know when you find time to sleep because you've got so much going on, but the focus of this today is going to be on your new release. And you've just hooked up with a new distributor, online distributor, goodtunes.com. So, what can you tell us about the new instrumental album, Guitar as a Voice?
Well, it all came from hooking up with Bill at Good Tunes. I have a mutual friend. We have a mutual friend named Greg Richling who used to play bass for the Wallflowers and is now a film producer. And he called me one day telling me that there's this new service that was being put together that has it's influenced by the original iTunes idea, which is you own the albums, you own the MP3s, you can do whatever you want with them. And they wanted to create some type of novel, new idea of how to create new product out of digital files. And it's a really cool service. I mean, their sound quality is really better than any other streaming situation, and you can do whatever you like with the files that you get because you own them. It's no, it's unfortunately, this generation doesn't really understand the value of music anymore. And in this case, it puts a value to the music and also has a much royalty rate to the artists, which is very important because it's very tough to make a living as I do as a musician and producer. I have to work very hard, and most of my output really comes from the amount of work that I have to put in to be able to make a living and support my family and make things happen. In this industry.
Yeah, it's a tough go anymore, that's for sure. And people talk about, and personally, I'm not really crazy about a lot of the business side of the music business from my own experiences, but when we had record companies distributing the music, if you had some sort of business acumen, you had a chance, to make some money. And it's just that much harder today. So whenever you can find an avenue to get a better share, like I use Bandcamp, for example, because they pay musicians, fairly as far as I'm concerned. And sounds like we're on the right track with goodtunes.com as well, or goodtunesstore.com.
I'm
So
one of the second artists that they've released, so it's still a beta situation, but so far it's really been great for the fans. It's been really great for me, and the response has been good. So I can't complain right now. I mean, it's really I'm really happy with how it's going with that, and it inspired this record because basically they were like, okay, do you have anything that's unreleased? And I've been doing on my YouTube page for a while now, and they had some of them had been released as singles, but really there was no um, actual promotion on it. And in this case, I was able to compile them onto one recording, and now they got promotion behind it, and I'm getting a great response, and I've got it in all sorts of places around the country. So I really that's the effect of this project, is to bring my name to new people that have never heard of me. So I like it. It's a good thing.
cool, cool. Yeah. And the more music, the better. I know that you pretty much seem to be working around the clock on new things and new projects. There's aside from this, I just want to touch on briefly, there's a new very metal Christmas 1 and 2 that you had a
You're
big hand in the production on.
Well, that's a record for Cleopatra, and that's a perfect example of me being completely out of my comfort zone as a producer and enjoying the hell out of it because Brian at Cleopatra keeps on throwing me curveballs, and he was like, "Hey, can you do like a Van Halen version of the first track that we did was for the Bullet Boys, and uh, they wanted like a what if Van Halen did White Christmas." And I did the demo and they loved it. And next thing you know, the singer of the Bullet Boys was in my studio, wailing away like David Lee Roth. I'm more of a Van Hagar guy personally, and Van Cherone, but I did a total Van Hagar thing, sorry, Van Halen thing, and he came in and killed it, and that was the beginning of that project. And I got to work with some crazy metal people that I've never even. I don't own a single Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Megadeth, right? But I've worked with 5 different members of Megadeth. I'm not a metal guy at all, but I was able to create this record, and so far it's getting really good reviews. So here's to that. Again, the variety of being a record producer is my favorite part of being a record producer.
Yeah, and I guess sometimes you just have to step out to the edge and see what happens, right? And hopefully there's a safety net, or if there isn't one, you just improvise and get it done. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now back to the Guitar as a Voice album. Are all of the songs on this project covers?
Yes, they are. Basically, they're all covers of songs that are vocal songs. So I wanted to. A lot of them have never been done as an instrumental, so I wanted to deep dive into the idea of these songs could stand alone without the lyrics and the vocals, because the melodies are so strong. So, like "Careless" by Stephen Bishop, that was so much fun to be able to turn that into the jazz tune it should be, and also stuff like. I covered a Marshall Crenshaw song, "Passing Through," and that's a song that I've been playing live with him for the last 2 years, and I feel like his melody is it's so strong.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I'm also a big fan of melodic guitar playing, and I think that we have that in common as guitarists. I always really like to map out my solos before I actually hit record. And I think it's important that you can sing along or hum along to the guitar, just like you would the human voice, right? Now, speaking of the Guitar as a Voice, why don't we take a few minutes and check out your video for your cover of "The Kiss" by Judy
Sill.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, very nice playing. I love it. I love it. And on your Facebook group, you've also got a video of you covering a George Harrison track. Now, I'm curious about that guitar, and people can find you, Fernando Perdomo, on Facebook. There's a Facebook group there. Um, that's an interesting guitar that you're playing on the
That,
George Harrison.
I've been recently obsessed with a British guitar company called Suregold, and through Genesis, my Genesis fandom, Mike Rutherford used to use a Suregold double neck bass and guitar, and the company came out of Burns, which made those great surf guitars for the Ventures and for Cliff Richard and all these people, and they ended up becoming a name called Heyman, which made mostly drums, but they made some great guitars as well. And that's a Heyman 3030 that's been modified a little bit, but it's a British made guitar, and it's kind of like it's got a little bit of a telly vibe, and it's very very clean and very cool, and it's got a beautiful clean tone to it, and I love it. It's just wild, and I've got that. I've got a Suregold double neck, and I love a bass. It's cool. I remember going to England on tour and going to what's the name of that street? There's a street that's all music stores. I remember walking in and asking if they had any Suregolds or Heymans, and they're like, "Wait, is that an American accent?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, why the hell would you want, a British guitar? You've got Fender, Gibson, all this stuff. I'm like, well, I love Fender, I love Gibson, but I'm just a little bored. I love British guitars, and they're like, well, we hate them. So it's funny. If you go to England and you go on the marketplace and Craigslist or whatever, you see those going for next to nothing, because to them, the British never really quite made. You know, it's interesting. Uh, the if you listen to the story of the Beatles, George Harrison always wanted a Strat, and he had this like terrible guitar called the Stratus. It's like a, I forgot what it was, but it was some type of like crappy Japanese
Knockoff, yeah.
thing knockoff, and then and eventually he got his Strat, but that's the thing, is that they always wanted a Fender or a Gibson or a Gretsch, and that's the thing, is that the Beatles used, aside from the Hofner, all American guitars. They were obsessed with American equipment, Ludwig drums and stuff like that. I mean, the British really nailed amps, with Vox and Marshall and stuff like that, Orange. But guitars, they were always somewhere, they were never really known for guitars. So it's pretty cool being an American playing a British guitar on a British song, you know.
It seems like the grass is always greener on the other side. I do like to pick up different guitars, and you mentioned Vox. I actually played a Vox 12-string electric in studio a few years ago, and I didn't even know such a thing existed. But I was just putting down some acoustic tracks on this one song, and the producer hands me this 12-string Vox. I was, wow. And it's always cool to play different instruments, that's for sure. So the new album, Guitar's Voice, is out and available. And what else is coming from you?
Oh, well, I'm working on another singing album. I'm being a producer and working with such great singers, it makes it very difficult for me to accept that I'm one of those singers that takes a little work to perfect in the studio. And I would never hire myself as a singer. So, but people seem to like my voice, and I get some good reviews, and I've critically acclaimed, but so this is kind of a real follow-up to my Zebra Crossing album, which I made at Abbey Road. I did an album called Jangle back in 2022, and that was kind of a novelty record. I wanted to make a record with just 12-string Rickenbacker, and that came out cool. but there was also a lot of older songs on there. I'm working on writing a new album, so I'm halfway through making the album, and I've got a bunch of songs. So that's going to be a cool project for spring, and I've got interest from a label on that. I've got a new record I made with a guy named Matt Teku, who was the drummer for Echo in the Canyon. That's a duo instrumental project, and that should be coming out soon as well. There's another label that's interested in that one. And I've got a lot of projects I've produced. I've got another sort of duo project with a guy named Nick Satchel from San Diego. That's really cool. Another instrumental project. And looks like I'm going to be touring a lot with Marshall Crenshaw next year. So that's exciting. I also have a record that's coming out on the 17th. I produced a record for a legendary post-punk artist named Chrome. Helios Creed is the main guy of that band, and he was one of the two original guys in the band. The other guy, Damon, passed away, and I've been brought in to fill those shoes. So it's kind of a duo project as well. We have a single out right now called Repo Man with Mel Collins, the sax player for King Crimson. So that's pretty cool. Cleopatra has been a real blessing. They've thrown a lot of really interesting projects at me, and I just had a project come out yesterday. Actually, it's called Fusion Syndicate, Beautiful Horizon, and it's cool because it's like a dream of mine to make 70s style fusion records, because I love Jean-Luc Ponty and Return to Forever and Mahavishnu, and it's a cool 70s sounding record that has Chester Thompson of Genesis on drums, and I've got some really cool guests like Robbie Krieger and Al Di Meola and Jan Ackerman, and there's two records out. One's called A Speedway on the Rings of Saturn, and the other one's called Beautiful Horizon, and they're both out now on Cleopatra.
Wow, those are some pretty top shelf players that you're working with. And when you mentioned Return to Forever, immediately I thought of Al Di Meola and how I just about strangled myself trying to figure out the Elegant Gypsy Suite back in the day.
Yeah. Well, still an incredible force of nature. He had some health stuff. He had a health scare a few weeks ago. He had a heart attack, but he's okay now, and he's working on getting his health back together to do his big electric tour next year.
Oh, very cool.
And he's phenomenal. Again, most of these collaborations these days are done via email, so I wasn't there for his actual tracking, but what he sent was phenomenal, and what he played on that track, it's actually called The Speedway on Saturn's Rings. It is classic Di Meola. He still plays as good as he did back in the 70s, if not better.
Wow. Well, we'll look for that. That's for sure. Oh, man, I know you're a busy guy, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Fernando. I don't want to take up your whole day. I do want to thank you so much once again for taking the time to do this with me. And until next time, cheers.
Thanks, Tommy. Have a great day, brother.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. And hey, here's some news. We've just recently joined forces with 519 Magazine, so you can check out my interviews there as well. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn, all rights reserved. If you enjoy the show and you'd like to help us keep it going, why don't you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, cheers.